But on the good side, all the debates in Parliament, majority of the policymakers have acknowledged that SUHAKAM should be funded more adequate. I mean, is not entirely adequately funded and has pushed for SUHAKAM to have more funding. So with that one, I think I end the issue, my presentation on the challenges. So how would I be able to summarize it? I think for the past 5 years, SUHAKAM has been able to, with all the challenges, successfully address the key recommendations that has been put forward. Even within the budget constraints that is there, and the limited resources available, it has been able to reach as much as wide throughout the country and even go further and look into cross-border issues due to it being the need, being an important public need of the time, particularly again at this point where we are discussing with other NHRIs in the region on trans-border haze issue, which happens every year, and hopefully from there, other issues as well, in particular areas of human trafficking and so forth. So, okay. So now, I'd just like to go into, I believe everyone has heard or was given a survey questionnaire before coming. So before I actually share those results, can I just ask, how many of you were actually involved in the pre-survey consultation? Oh, okay, no one. So basically everyone that came today did not receive or did not get our pre-survey on this, or just one or two. Okay. So we gave out a survey, SUHAKAM Day, to look at, in particular, because of this re-accreditation, to get the responses of how well-informed CSOs are on SUHAKAM's re-accreditation. And we received 147 responses. I think we sent out 150. How many did you send out, Josephina? How many did we send out? We received back only 147, but we sent out about 150? Okay, so pretty much the response rate was very good, more than 90%, I would say. So what we received at 37%, only 37% of respondents was aware about SUHAKAM's re-accreditation process, while more than 63% were unaware or even unsure. And this is not too surprising because this is only the second time we've actually done it. So I think this is something that we hope to actually be able to do every 5 years and to be part of our own best practice to ensure that when we do go through this accreditation, CSOs and other agencies also are aware and can participate. Okay. Okay. So within those of the ones that had responded to the survey, we were able to only analyze that only out of the 332 respondents, only 6 were directly involved in SUHAKAM's re-accreditation, while the majority rest were not involved. So this is an interesting outcome, and I think it's something that we need to look into. So another question that we actually brought forward in the survey was, there was a few questions that we actually asked. So one of the key questions that we asked is, do you agree that the recent amendment to the SUHAKAM Act will help strengthen SUHAKAM's effectiveness and independence? Now, so what was the answer to that? only 124 responded, and more than half of the respondents agree, but 58.1% agree that the recent amendment to the Act strengthens SUHAKAM's selection and appointment process, while 39% neither agree nor disagree. And that's not too bad. Okay. So the next question was on the question of full-time members. How did the respondents feel whether having full-time members would strengthen SUHAKAM or not? And the result for this is that, next. More than half of the respondents agreed that the recent amendments strengthen SUHAKAM through the appointment of full-time members. So we got the response so that's a good response, saying that they agree with the fact that having full-time members is a plus, with only 35, again, either agreeing or disagreeing. Next is on the question of advocate funding. So again, to this question, only 123 responded. Next. More than half of the respondents agree that advocate funding will help strengthen SUHAKAM's effectiveness and independence, while 53% neither agreed or disagreed. So this is like a 50-50. Next. More than half of the respondents, again 61%, agree that through the tabling and debate of SUHAKAM's annual and special reports helps to strengthen SUHAKAM. On the issue of the dismissal process, more than half of the respondents agree that the recent amendment will help strengthen the dismissal process of a member of the Commission, while 45% neither agree or disagree. So that one is also still a bit out there. Next. 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 So this is just some of the responses that we received. So in this one is again on whether they agree or disagree, on whether the SUHAKAM Act amendment is sufficient for SUHAKAM to carry out its role. So again, 42% to 40%, 53% agree, but 42% neither agree or disagree. So in conclusion, I would say that the feedback that we are getting from during the survey is positive. However, there is definitely still a lot of area of concerns that we still need to address, and the particular area is for better understanding of the importance of SUHAKAM, the role that SUHAKAM can play, and how it can affect daily lives. This is still an area that still needs to be addressed, or else because I would say that even though more than 50% has been positive, but we still have a high percentage that seems to are either indifferent or disagree. And I think this is a key area that still needs to be addressed. So I think with that, I end my presentation. And I'm actually more than happy to have any questions before we go for a break and then for the next session to start. The microphones are at the back, I think. So feel free if anybody needs to have a question, wants anything to be re-explained. Let's have a dialogue. Yeah, please.
Oh, thanks, Sina. Hi. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh and a very good afternoon. I'd like to find out this question regarding about the annual and special reports. In accordance with the Section 21 of the Act, SUHAKAM may submit an annual and thematic reports to Parliament. However, there is no requirement for Parliament to debate the report. My question is that since the formation of SUHAKAM from year of 1999 until 2018, it took 17 years to publish reports in the Parliament because one of the reasons is that the formation of SUHAKAM is come from Parliament, so they should be accountable and reliable back to the Parliament. But in this case, why there's such provision in the law that prohibit this report should be debated in the Parliament? Thanks.
Okay, if I understand correctly, actually SUHAKAM has never not had an annual report. But while we submitted, and it was left to the government of the day to actually table it in Parliament and debate it. And I think that was one of the key challenges. And only in 2018, the then government had the courage to actually follow what was in the Act and debate it. And now under this government, we've actually seen it a few times. We really hope that this will stay. But from SUHAKAM's point of view, every year we publish and submit an annual report for Parliament. Okay.
Hi, I have a question on the selection committee for the selection and appointment process for commissioners. So if I understood correctly, there's a selection committee comprising of 3 CSO representatives. Can we ask about how CSOs can join the selection committee, what the requirements are, and whether in the most recent selection process in the last few months, whether the identities or the names of these organizations are open, and if CSOs are free to apply to join the selection committee. Thank you.
Thank you. Now, the selection committee is not done within SUHAKAM. This is not under SUHAKAM. Out of the 5, the 2 permanent members is the KSN, Ketua Setiausaha Negara, and the chairman of SUHAKAM, whoever the chairman is. And the 3 is chosen by the Prime Minister. So, yeah, so that's why I saw Mr. Gerald saying this is secret. Well, in a way, because even we don't know. And it's good to bring this up because to progress further. I mean, it'd be fantastic if we could have it the way the US does, where the congressional hearing, you can go for an interview by Parliament. But okay, fine, if we cannot go towards that, maybe to be more open about who is in the Jawatan Kuasa and to have interviews for each commissioner could be a way forward. But I think this needs to be pressure from you guys more, because this is not within SUHAKAM's mandate in this context. Yes.
Thank you very much. So my name is Gina, I'm from Swaram. So I have 3 questions. The first one is with regards to the selection process for the Commissioner of Persons with Disabilities. Just wondering what are the current developments on that front. So that's the first one. The second one is with regards to outstanding recommendations by GANRI, specifically on, let's say, promoting broad consultation and/or participation in the application, screening, selection, appointment process, assessment of applicants on the basis of predetermined, objective, and publicly available criteria. Just wondering what are SUHAKAM's plans in advocacy with the government on that front. The third question is any timeline that SUHAKAM has in mind in terms of finalizing the code of conduct for the commissioners? Thank you.
Sure. Okay, so actually we a few months ago we went through the whole process of the promotion for the new batch of commissioners. So just to share with you the whole process, one, it's not under SUHAKAM again, it's actually under JPM in this context by you, yeah. So, but Bayu, of course, engages to make sure that the terms, we are aligned on the terms of reference, what is expected. So there's clear terms of reference, clear timelines for advertisements, and as wide a coverage as possible for every citizen to be aware, because it's not selected to just any organizations, because it's for every citizen. So what happens then is it's a big national call for those interested to apply. I must say that for this year, there was actually a lot of applicants. I was informed there was a really lot of applicants. What goes through then is a blind review just to make sure that those who has applied meets the minimum criteria as stated in the Act. After which those names will then go to the Jawatan Kuasa. So then the Jawatan Kuasa is the one that will go through. And when we say the rigorousness of going through the name of the applicants, number one is just first is the terms of reference. After that is also looking at security background clearance to make sure you're not having somebody that actually has committed a crime and so forth or whatnot, kind of a thing. So there are specific processes, and then of course the Jawatan Kuasa has the full authority in this case to then choose between 7 to 20. Okay. Mr. Gerald first, yeah.
Good afternoon. Thank you for the presentation. I was part with Dato' Sri in that 5 years ago process when I was a commissioner. I think since this is preparing for the GANRI Re-Accreditation, I think we promised a lot 5 years ago, Dato' Sri. So now you're going to be challenged to answer those questions if the amendments reach what we promised. We were hopeful. The time was after the new change of government. So I think it's in that context, some of the questions asked and the criticism of the amendments actually fall below the expectation of what we were hoping for. Like the example being, you said security of tenure. I don't think security of tenure. It's the PM appointing investigation panel to outvote you all, you know. So it's like the Mahathir era during Tan Sri Saleh Abbas. You can, technically, if you're too critical of government, if they want, they can get 3 people, investigate Dato' Sri and say, too bad, you da-da-da-da. You know? So that is not security of tenure, you know. The commission should be a body unto itself to manage its own conduct. So I think too much of outside hand has come into this amendment. So I'm just saying that the commissioners will have a bigger task linking to our promises 5 years ago. The SCA were informed this is what we were hoping would happen. It never, some of it never happened. Some happened to reality, happened. But beyond that, I think even the unhindered access to places of detention, I think we failed. The amendment was weak on that. Even code of conduct, the word again uses minister's power. Conduct should be unto ourselves, commissioners managing ourselves, you know, based on the Paris Principle. So again, we have external hands. So while they are not interfering now, good, but you don't know what's going to happen in the future. So I think we are going to have a lot to answer to SCA in terms of the 5-year ago report, our hopes of promises, and now where we are based on Rail Amendment Act. So I've got a lot to say on the specific which I've mentioned in my interviews after the amendment, but I think because this is the Gandhi Re-Accreditation and they are not afraid to tell us where we are. So really we need to use this space to tell government there needs to be a better amendment. And we did this in 2007 when SUHAKAM was almost on the verge of imminent downgrade to B. And then I think the time law minister made 2 amendments within 30 days to keep us afloat at what I call minimum A. And I still feel we are at minimum A, but a lot of work needs to be done. Let's use the momentum, and hopefully the 6-7 months you can tell Azalina and the team on that side, there's a good opportunity that we may be getting into trouble with SCA. So let's work on the amendments while we can in this period. That may spur the government not to be embarrassed if these questions come from the SCA. Thank you.
I think I forgot to answer the question on the code of conduct. I think the draft is ready. We just need for the new commission to come in and then present it to the commission and see what the commission says and bring it forward from there. How many minutes, Saya? Oh, we have an online question before.
We have online, so I read out to you. Okay, the first question, actually got 2 questions here from the same person. It's from Aisha Abdurrahman from University Malaya. Her question is, thank you for clarifying again how the amendments could be read to affect that children commissioners are full-time. How the amendments could be read to the effect that the children commissioners are full-time. And the second question is, also Ms. Alta mentioned constitutional challenges regarding SUHAKAM's independence. Also, please elaborate. Thanks.
Which one? The independence? Sorry, I'm not that clear on the second question. Which independence? It's okay, I think we can get back to it if she can. There was also another question here, but I take note.
Very good afternoon. Thank you, Madam, for your presentation. My name is Amir from Wisma Putra. First point is to acknowledge today's session. The dialogue, as Dato' Sri's point at the start mentioned, the element of listening, which I think is a very healthy approach, and we highly welcome this initiative. Secondly is just a question, I think is covered in your presentation as well as the first presentation earlier, about the element of partnership with stakeholders, regional players and international players. The question that I have in mind is, how would SUHAKAM look at counterparts or players outside of Malaysia in terms of deciding who to partner with? Because at the end of the day, different countries have different sets of issues and challenges and contexts. There is no other country like Malaysia. So how do you look at that and decide which countries are suitable for Malaysia to partner with, or is it issues-based when it comes to looking for a partnership outside of Malaysia? Thank you once again, Madam.
All right. Thank you. Perhaps I also should, in answering that question, also explain that I think Fendi explained that we're part of GANRI, which is 142 NHRIs from the members, UN member states that actually has an NHRI. We're also a member of the Asia Pacific Forum, the regional forum, and then we're also a member of the Southeast Asia National Forum, so countries within Southeast Asia that has. So first and foremost, I think our key international collaboration and engagement is with global regional NHRIs. And these can either be issue-based, but more so on trying to address key, how to help the country accede to more treaties within the human rights treaties. When there are 9 human rights treaties and we are only party to 3, so in learning from other NHRIs within the global context or regional context of how have some countries been able to push and what we can learn from that. So that's one in terms of treaty. In terms of issue-based, some countries are more similar. Malaysia has a dual legal system. We have Sharia and we have civil law. So there's definitely going to be issues on human rights that can be quite challenging. So those are issues that we do reach out. For instance, we have just signed an MOU with Maldives on Human Rights Institute yesterday because of learning and how they've become treaty to UNCAT and other issues, not just that, other issues affecting the challenges that we face being a plural society and having a dual legal system. So, and then now, of course, with cross-border issues, we have to engage with NHRIs from other countries. But apart from NHRIs, I think established international organizations are key partners, and these are all based on the area that we work. When it comes to refugees, or migrant movements, we've got UNHCR, IOM, ILO, and so forth. Then there's, now that children is a key, we're working with UNICEF, both, while mostly, of course, those focusing in Malaysia, but it could be regional partnerships. So I hope I answered your question on that. Thanks.
Ms. Altaf, we have one. Ms. Aisha, just now she wanted to elaborate, so we'll open the floor to her.
Good afternoon, Ms. Alta. Good afternoon, Dr. Sri, and everyone in the room. And happy SUHAKAM Day, and thank you for inviting me to be part of this consultation. I'll start with my questions, Janelle, perhaps a clarification of my questions earlier. I think firstly, I kind of missed, perhaps help me understand again, how the amendments to especially the ones who new sections to introduce or expand rather, the Office of the Children Commissioners and the new Children Commissioners are being considered full-time. Because during my presentation just now, I mean, I think I can hear that you elaborated there were a few amendments that seem to be read to the effect that the new Children Commissioners are now full-time. So that was my first question. My second question, when you presented on the existing challenges, specifically in relation to independence, you mentioned very, very briefly about some challenges in the federal constitution, if I heard correctly. Perhaps you could elaborate on those challenges, just to understand if there are specific constitution provisions, or is it a matter of understanding or aligning or interpreting the federal constitution with some of the treaty that SUHAKAM was looking to promote for Malaysia's secession. Thank you.
Can I have an interpreter? Maybe if anybody that was able to catch that, I didn't really get it was very unclear, unfortunately. Jennifer, did you get?
Oh, sorry, I think what she was asking was, because if you remember the challenge that you put on your slide under independence, where to address issues that are inconsistent with the federal constitution, I believe that was what her question was. What were the challenges specifically?
Okay. I think I don't want to elaborate too much on this one. Or else I'll pass it over to the commissioner. That there are certain parts of the constitution, particularly I think when it comes that we are having some challenges due to the nature of our constitution when it comes to some of the international treaties. An example is ICERT. The definition within ICERT on equality and also affirmative action based on ethnicities, those brought forward. I think those are key issues that we need to address, and those are still certain challenges within SUHAKAM that we have not fully overcome. There are also other parts of the Constitution that looks at certain definitions of Even the definition, I'm just going to be point blank, even some of the definitions of like Bumiputra, for instance. So, and then the certain, that is within that, and then the issues where there may or may be some form of contradiction with the Islamic law and the legal regime. And these are certain things that are still key challenges that SUHAKAM is still having to face, either because of just interpretation or public engagement or policymakers refusing due to fear, but nevertheless it's still a challenge. And so that's what we refer to, that there are still challenges within the current legal framework that we live in. Yeah.
If I may, then perhaps a follow-up question: has this come up during the process in the past, the re-accreditation process?
Good question. Maybe, has this issue ever been brought up in the past? Since I was not there in the past, maybe I could ask Mr. Gerald. Mr. Gerald, was this issue ever brought up before?
Yes, I think it's always depends on which group comes to us. Those who understand human rights criticize SUHAKAM for not making it strong enough, sharp enough, and those that don't support inclusivity, universal human rights, they would attack the Commission, both online, by meeting us. I think Dato Sri was one of those targets at that time with other commissioners, saying that we have contravened the framework of the Constitution, and so it's actually a battle of what's in the Federal Constitution Part 2. But of course, Dato Sri, Dato Mao, and we have legal minds there who can interpret it the best way. And if you believe in universal human rights, then that's another way to take forward. But I think the position of the Commission should be as clear on the expansive notion of human rights as a universal standard, because we don't need the Commission to interpret a conservative measure. The government will do that. Don't worry about that. The right-wing conservative NGOs will do that. But we need a standard bearer, and that's why I really feel the Commission should always be that voice in the wilderness to chart the path. And I think even if the courts have not yet pronounced, the Commission should be the first to pronounce a standard. I think, but that's a big call for whoever hams the Commission. And of course, I know that the Sri will stand up to the test, but the new set of commissioners who are coming in must really take on that role as a vanguard of human rights.
Yeah, I have to agree. I think there's a high expectation with the new batch of commissioners. Just to let you know, we currently are running on only 5 commissioners, and all of them now are spread throughout the country, which is only why we only have Dato Sri here today with us. The 2 child commissioners are in the south. We have the one in Sarawak, and we've got Puan Melissa, who's representing at The Hague on another issue on CEDAW, if I'm not mistaken. So, which is why I just wanted to answer why we don't have, by right we should be having our commissioners here today, but because we're still waiting for the batch and we're really running on a bare minimum as it is, yeah. Is there any other questions? Yes. Oh, and then after that, Anne.
Hello, hi. So my name is Prashant. I'm from the Center to Combat Corruption and Cronyism. I actually have 2 questions in relation to UPR recommendations that I feel would be relevant to SUHAKAM's mandate. First of all, I recognize the amendments that have been made to the SUHAKAM Act with regards to the selection and appointment of commissioners. I think good try, but at the end of the day, it does not attain the gold standard of democratizing the process. It's still extremely opaque. And from my experience working with Bahiu on developing the Ombudsman Act and right now the Freedom of Information Act, the government seems to be going in a direction of recognizing parliamentary appointment processes. So I just want to ask from your experience, I'm not sure to what extent SUHAKAM is made privy to this, but considering the fact that a UPR recommendation was made to institute parliamentary selection processes for all domestic oversight institutions, to what extent is there a plan to sort of change the whole Section 11A system that currently exists. Is SUHAKAM privy to that? And number two, with regards to the actual implementation of UPR recommendations, I believe in July after Malaysia, the Malaysian delegation had announced their response to it, right? They stated that a council or jawatan kuasa would be set up to actually look into the implementation, but as far as I can find, there is really no information on the status of that. So yeah, is SUHAKAM involved with this jawatan kuasa as well? Yeah.
Good afternoon. With regard to your question on, I guess, selection, streamlining it, we had, while we were doing the amendment process, suggested for so you've got a two-stage process for selection. So you've got first the selection committee, and then a second stage would be maybe the parliamentary select committee, right? However, even at that time, as you all would know, it's not up to SUHAKAM to make these changes. So one of the issue was the parliamentary select committee is an ad hoc committee. It changes every time the government changes. So at the time when we were doing the amendment, which was in 21-22, you had a PSSC on major appointments, yes. But then when the new government came in, that disappeared. And then you had one on human rights and so forth, and reform. So again, if you put that wording that it has to be the parliamentary select committee on major appointments, by the time in a couple of years' time when the government changed, that no longer exists. So how are you going to effect the law, right? So then the question was, would rather than it being an ad hoc committee, something more permanent to be put in, so which then, I guess now, in the last few years, the government itself has seen a change, as you rightly said, with the parliamentary commission being appointed, and in that process, the ombudsman being processed as well. So how can we improve that process? So unless a permanent committee, like maybe accounts, the PAC, like how you've got the PAC being a committee that doesn't change, right? That remains there irrespective of the governments, then that would be something to look forward. So that can be we are working towards that. That's part of our intention in moving forward, even in suggesting new amendments and how to strengthen the provisions.
Hello. Hi, thank you. I'm Sue Ann from APPGM SDG. So my question is really, I'm just out of curiosity because only the recent years that Parliament has APPGM, so we have SDGs, we have refugees, we have children's rights, and etc. I appreciate that you share about the challenges for SUHAKAM even after the accreditations. I wonder how is it that SUHAKAM, or rather how open is SUHAKAM to work together with this new entity in Parliament for this APPGM? We are bipartisan, so and our committee are MPs. I believe that we can actually complement in terms of the resources, in terms of knowledge, and also our advocacy together. But just wondering, like, how open is SUHAKAM about it?
Actually, we've already had a meeting with your organization and with Dato' Dennison. We are definitely open for engagement. I think we realize that SDGs, core part of SDGs, human rights. You're not going to be able to achieve SDGs if you don't address human rights. In issues of refugees, we are very much engaged. We're definitely, I think we'll be coming out with our policy brief on our position on refugee this year, actually. It's actually already done. We're just waiting to launch it. And we're more, again, even now we already have MOU with UNHCR. We're definitely open to engage with any organization in the pursuit of human rights. But with yours, I think we've actually had started discussions. But I think one of the things I need to also remind is that human rights is huge. The landscape is so wide. But SUHAKAM is very limited when it comes to structure. Out of the 95 officers that we have, only 45 are actually officers, the rest are supporting staff. One of the key things that we're hoping to push for, and this one we really are having to engage with the government, is we need to expand and also to address the up and coming new issues. Even SDGs alone, we will require more capacity even within SUHAKAM to address. And we acknowledge that, and we are trying to push, which is why we are engaging in pushing for better funding, but funding which translates to better capacity. I think it's 4:45 already. Sorry, 3:45. Okay, I was actually hoping it's 4:45.
Can I take 3 from online?
Okay.
Okay, 2 is from Thomas. Question number one is how to improve or ensure the implementation of its findings and recommendations. This has always been a concern.
Sorry, repeat that?
Yeah. How to improve or ensure the implementation of its findings and recommendations.
How to improve?
Yeah, to ensure the implementations of its
issues-
findings.
Of whose findings?
I think SUHAKAM refers to SUHAKAM's finding, how to...
Or for any of
Yeah,
our,
how to ensure
for our work?
Yes, how to ensure SUHAKAM's findings is being implemented.
Okay.
And
Okay.
maybe I continue. Number 2 is SUHAKAM's National Inquiry Report in 2012. Had it been debated, and any response from those parties responsible or entrusted with such responsibilities? This is an NI report. Has it been debated?
Which NI report? Oh, okay,
NI.
okay, all right. Right, the first question, I think one of in our Article 13A, I believe, 13?
13.
13.3, which requires agencies to respond. So I think that's one of the ways that SUHAKAM uses to ensure that our recommendations are being listened to by relevant agencies. So I take, for example, we have a complaint, or we've made we made a list of recommendations on a particular area and submitted it to a relevant authority, be it immigration or depot or so forth. We follow up with the same agency on what have they done since we have submitted that report or recommendation, and they do have to respond. Now, so of course we would love them to be more to be stronger than that, but at this point, at least as a method of monitoring, is ensuring that they do respond, and I think this is one of the ways that we put on pressure. But if we could strengthen the Act further, where they have to actually not just respond, but implement recommendations, and that's the ideal. But at this point, it's just respond. The second question was on
How to ensure...
the National Inquiry on Land. Yes. I believe last year was the 10-year anniversary of our National Inquiry on the native land rights. And actually, Puan Parames was very much involved during that time, is here as well. One of the reasons why we actually did do the event last year was because, 2023, not 2024, 2023 was because there has not been any, we have not seen any movement from the recommendations put forward in that report. So in 2023, we did a whole nother session as a review and to look again, and why hasn't there been any follow-up? So unfortunately, there was not much, apart from political will, there was not really a soothing answer. What SUHAKAM is now looking at is we will continue to push for those recommendations because it's still very much relevant. We've brought it up again in our discussions and our attempts to get meetings with ministers this year as well, to get the feedback on what has been done since the NRI in 11 years ago. Unless you have anything, you want to add anything, Permez? Okay, right. Okay.
There's one more.
Okay.
Hi, and this is from Muhammad Zakaria from JWKS. Hi, Madam Altaf. Which country did SUHAKAM refer to in relation to the proposed code of conduct?
Okay. It's still in process, but it's not just one country. I think we're benchmarking at a number of countries as best practice. But at the moment, since it's still a work in process, I'm not at privy to share yet. But it will be made, I think it will be made public once it's been cleared by the Commission.
Hello? Okay. This is Wei Wei again from Forum Asia, together with Janelle from SWARAM. We wanted to ask questions about the recommendation implementation. Are there any statistics on how many percentage of recommendations by SUHAKAM have been responded to and also implemented by relevant government agencies? And then the second question is, since the amendment was introduced to respond, for government agencies to respond to SUHAKAM for the recommendations, has responses and implementation rates improved? Thank you.
First, I'm sorry to say that I don't think we have kept statistics on the number of responses, but that's a good idea. Perhaps something we should look into. As in the responses towards SUHAKAM when we request for information, I think it's a combination of things. The strengthening, I mean, the change of the Act itself that now makes them answer, but also because our report has been tabled in Parliament, and the fear that if you don't respond, we actually stated in the report that we have tried to get responses, and so a number of agencies actually fear that probably a lot more. So ensure that they get make sure that they do respond, because the last thing you want is to name to be in the agency that does not respond and is in the report tabled in Parliament. So we have seen improvements there. But yes, Jennifer, you wanted to add?
I'm sure you've been following SUHAKAM's annual report debate and everything. And the one thing you would also have realized is, as maybe with other annual report debates, not SUHAKAM, the minister that tables it is also the minister that is responsible to respond. However, in the last 3 years, with the current change of government, one thing that has been improved, I think positively, is YB Azalina is minister in the Prime Minister's department, will open it up first, right? And thereafter, any questions that come in, every agency that is involved in the annual report is on standby with the officers to provide responses specifically to that. So it's not all on her, because a lot of things are not under JPM, right? It's across the board on all the other ministries. So therefore, this is also another way to encourage ministries that they know that the issues are going to be brought up or maybe brought up by MPs. So therefore, it is their responsibility to make sure that their minister or their deputy minister has to respond. There's no two ways about that, right? So we feel like that's actually a very positive way ahead. So saying that, as NGOs here and organizations, what is it that should be brought up? So engage with your MPs to ask pertinent questions that you think needs answers. And that's another opportunity for you to have it on record in the Hansard. So therefore, then you can, that will also help SUHAKAM to take things forward. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Kyril from APPGM SDG. Just a quick question. It's probably connected to the previous question as well. I'm just wondering if there is, because SUHAKAM does a lot of evaluations, and I'm sure there are data from SUHAKAM that's quite valuable for us to basically gauge maybe different sort of progress in all the different aspects of SUHAKAM's work. So I'm wondering if there is any sort of collaboration between SUHAKAM and relevant government agencies in terms of sharing and feeding data, say, for example, with DOSM. Thank you.
At the moment, we don't have that kind of collaboration. It's probably mostly us asking data from DOSM for our research instead of the other way around. But I take note, I think 26 years, there's a huge amount of data that could be analyzed and actually shared that SUHAKAM can share, that can, for example, 26 years of complaints with an average of nearly 1,000 every year. That is such rich data, of course. I think that's probably the next step that SUHAKAM should look into, is how do we turn this data into something concrete in terms of policy moving forward. But thank you. Okay.
One more question from online, from Liza Ali, from My Watch in CWO. The question is, there must be compliance to the code of conduct. Who will oversee that onus and responsibility?
I think this is where the issue that Mr. Gerald actually brought up, because while there is the code of conduct, actually anybody can put in a complaint. And if there's a valid amount of complaint, the tribunal will then decide whether the complaint is valid enough to be looked into. So the question here is then, one of the big challenge is, as a commissioner, how do you feel confident enough, or is there any potential of political interference with threats of accusations? But to also share that the whole essence or the whole idea of the code of conduct is to also ensure that there is no political interference in a number of stages of the commission, from the selection to while performing as commissioner. And also, it's having that code of conduct to also ensure, it's like a job terms of reference in a sense, that this is what commissioners need to abide by. And it's also historical, because there has been certain incidences in the past where certain issues was raised. So I think, in its essence, it is trying to look into both. But having said that, I definitely, I think everybody takes note, even within the commission when it was debating about this, was take note that anything can be used. There's always any potential of political interference, but as long as the code of conduct, I think the way it's written and the way taking best practices from other countries as well, I think we can, in a way, at best, try to avoid any potential of abuse. But of course, it boils down to how our code of conduct is designed. Okay, so that was my last question. Before I go, could I maybe, Dato' Sri, would you like to say anything? Jennifer? Okay, all right. So and after this will be another session. So thank you very much for all the questions, and I'll see you in the next session. Thanks.
Thank you, Ms. Altaf Deviati, and distinguished participants for the fruitful discussion. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, we will now take a quick break for afternoon tea served at the foyer outside the ballroom. The refreshments will be served until the end of the program. You may also bring the food into the ballroom. We kindly request that both online and in-person participants return to Zoom and the ballroom respectively at 4:15 p.m. as the program will continue properly. We also encourage you to visit SUHAKAM's exhibition booth located inside the hall. Thank you. Okay. Tiga. Start balik. Tapi itulah orang makan lagi. Macam lagi lah. Siap. Okay, kasih ni lah. Sibuk ke? Mesti buat case management lagi lah nanti lah. Okay, I start dulu lah. It's okay lah. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, kindly be seated for our next session. Please be informed that you may also bring your food into the ballroom. For your information, light refreshments are provided at the back as well. We will now proceed with the final presentation for today, which is on SUHAKAM's achievements and challenges from 2021 to 2025 mandate that will be delivered by Yang Berbahagia Dato' and Jennifer Victor Isaacs, Deputy Secretary of Corporate Services, followed by an interactive dialogue with participants. Similar to the previous session, we invite you to ask questions and make comments during the interactive dialogue. Without further ado, I now invite Yang Berbahagia Dato' and Jennifer to take the floor.
Good afternoon, everyone. I hope everyone managed to get a bit of food and coffee. I think my segment has been covered in a way here and there by the previous presenters. So just very quickly, and I know that it's already 4:20, so I'm sure you're all ready to leave as well and to beat traffic. So yeah, the next one. So my segment is talking about SUHAKAM's achievements and challenges from 2021 to 2025, talking about our mandate. As many of you would already be aware, our functions are advisory, monitoring, and promotional functions. Okay. I think we've talked about this, what is human rights, how is human rights defined? Human rights is defined under Section 2 of the SUHAKAM Act as defined under Part 2, which is the fundamental liberties. And then in Section 4.4, it further states that it refers to the UDHR as long as it is not inconsistent with our federal constitution. Next. Okay. Next. Okay. Which rights are NHRIs mandated to address? You may have already realized that different NHRIs, some NHRIs carve out the areas that they look after, the rights that they look after. While here in SUHAKAM, we cover the full spectrum of human rights issues. Legally, we are, the full rights of issues. Legally, the scope covers civil political rights as enshrined under Part 2, and then we also have the UDHR segments. In practice, SUHAKAM has engaged with rights vulnerable groups, including women, children, indigenous people, refugees, stateless, persons with disabilities. So, in a whole, we cover from womb to tomb. These are the areas that SUHAKAM looks after. Next. Okay, if the institution's mandate refers to any limitation, number one, our mandate and jurisdiction applies in entirety to the territory of Malaysia with no formal geographic exclusion. However, the scope of rights is legally limited to Part 2 of the fundamental liberties in federal constitution, rights contained in the UDHR, again, as to the extent it is not inconsistent with the federal constitution. Number 3, it also is restricted by law from inquiring into matters pending or before already decided in court, which is section 12(2). So if a matter comes to us and then the matter also goes to court, we would have to stop our inquiry pending the trial, the court hearing proceeding on. Okay. One question I think that has also been asked earlier was, what's the worth or what's the strength of our recommendation? We would like to say that every agency needs to take on everything that we say, all our recommendations, and implement it. However, we cannot compel agencies, but we can encourage them. We do a lot of awareness so that they understand where we are coming from and what is it that we're trying to achieve in this. Okay, the next one is the advisory function of SUHAKAM. As mentioned, we've got the advisory function, which is provided under section 4(1)(b) of the Act, which states in our Act that the Commission is to advise and assist the government in formulating legislation, directives, and administrative procedures, as well as recommend necessary measures to be taken. Under section 4(2)(a), it provides that we are to promote awareness and provide education relating to human rights and to undertake research. Okay, next. Okay, regarding the function of the national legislation, we've mentioned section 4(1)(d), those are some of the provisions in there. And also to say that in the period of review, which is 2021 to 2025, SUHAKAM was involved, government agencies had invited SUHAKAM to be part of when they were having consultations on the different policy issues as well as legislation that they were creating for the first time, as well as when they were amending the laws. Very quickly, the next one. This is a snapshot of some of the initiatives that we've been involved in. I would like to also say that, this one as well. When you've looked at some of the acts, the policies, you may ask, where's the human rights element in there? Why is it not more impactful? We can only recommend, we can only provide advice, but whether they take it on or not is, again, up to the government of the day. One thing we're also realizing is the importance of engagement with different government agencies, different officers, so that for them to understand where is it that SUHAKAM is coming from. And we are seeing incremental improvement in relationship with certain buy-ins. Of course, some agencies could be a bit more of a challenge, but we see incremental improvement. Okay. Under the advisory function, another element that we proceed on is to encourage the government to ratify or accede to international instruments. As you all know, currently there is 3 treaties that Malaysia has already acceded to, with reservations in all 3 of them. And one of SUHAKAM's continued engagements or activities is to see how can you implement the items better, the provisions, and number 2, how can we remove the reservation in there. Okay. As part of the advisory promotional element to promote human rights issues, we also conduct research, consultations, we issue recommendations, reports. We engage with different government agencies, including CSOs, and today is one such opportunity to, again, I think not to underestimate the importance of awareness, that once you are aware, only then you can make relevant make relevant decisions that are based on human rights standards. Okay. Okay, the next one is monitoring. Okay, under monitoring, one of our mandate is also to receive complaints on when there is a violation of human rights. The legal provision for this function is found in Section 4 of the SUHAKAM Act, which empowers the Commission to inquire into complaints of human rights violation. I think it was also mentioned earlier. So we have a complaints and monitoring division, which oversees issues of investigation as well as monitoring. And previously, we could only enter into places of detention, but currently, as Puan Altaf has also mentioned, this provision has enabled, there's been an amendment and enlargement of areas that we can go into, so which also includes places of detention, institutions, which is not limited to what is institution, and other places, because when we're doing the amendment, you may say there is no clarity of what other places are, but sometimes that's actually a good thing, because if you may miss out on certain categorization. So we've kept it open, but at the end of the day, it is also the application that needs to be done to those agencies, because it's not, certain places still need at least preliminary approvals to go in. I think when we were doing this amendment, we had done consultation with government agencies as well as NGOs. So we had published that we were going to have a consultation on our amendment, and we did have a good number of NGOs, CSOs come on board to provide their input on the language of the amendment. Okay, those are legal provision. Next one, how the NHRI carries out its function in practice. So how is it implemented? Again, as mentioned, the team does scheduled and unscheduled visits. Sometimes it's also based on complaints that has been received. So when we say number one is visits to detention centers, institutions, and other places. An example would be conducting regular inspection of prisons, immigration depots, lockups, Henry Gurney schools, approved schools such as Sekolah Tunas Bakti, probation hostels, Asrama Akhlak, children's homes to check on conditions, interview detainees, residents, and assess the compliance with international standards. So that's under visits places of detention. Number two is monitoring public and peaceful assembly. Many of you would have seen SUHAKAM's presence there. We are small, but we normally try and have a group as far as possible to monitor public and peaceful assemblies. The next one is on this issue, right? I would like to also say sometimes we receive requests for can SUHAKAM monitor public and peaceful assemblies. We need time to also get the team together. We are, as we've also mentioned, we are very small. We are very short on manpower. So sometimes we tend to get a request less than 24 hours before the event itself. And again, we already would have had programs and things that are already planned. So just in the future, if anyone wants to invite SUHAKAM to request our presence to be there, please give us a little bit more time, preferably at least 7 days so that we've got time to plan our internal structure. I know a lot of things are confidential and stuff, but give us time to get our people together so that then we can be there as well. Okay, the next one is complaints handling. We receive and investigate individual complaints, group complaints on human rights violation, and then we accordingly we decide, is the issue complained about within SUHAKAM's mandate, or is there another agency better situated for that? And accordingly, we then take it up with the government, with the relevant agencies. We also do thematic monitoring. So we focus on specific groups' issues such as indigenous people's rights, freedom of speech, assembly, association, etc. We also do reporting. So as mentioned earlier, every year we publish our annual report. It is tabled in Parliament. Yes, even in our previous amendment cycle, we had requested for the wording in the provision to be dibentang dan dibahas, so to be tabled and to be debated. However, then we were also informed that that takes away the parliamentary, then the standing orders need to be amended to enable that provision, because you are requiring the parliament to take certain actions. So again, I think as explained earlier, we've seen in the last few years certain improvement with maybe the parliamentary council being commission being in the process of being appointed, the ombudsman. So hopefully in the future we can also institutionalize the pembahasan into the act, and not just it being at the discretion of the current government, which we are thankful for, that it's actually enabled MPs, NGOs to raise questions of human rights interest. Okay, the next one is how is the NHRI active in monitoring domestic human rights situations? As mentioned earlier, so again, a combination of oversight, engagement, field work. We also receive complaints from plantation owners, or plantations, from domestic workers, from could be construction, a variety. So we also go down to maybe visit the plantation owners, and then separately have engagement with the owners, but then also have a separate engagement with the workers themselves, and then see what's the problem and how can we find an amicable solution in this thing. Sometimes it could be issues that are maybe specific to that particular plantation, but sometimes it could be something that's more institutionalized, that you would need action from the government agencies. So as an example, post-COVID, the policy division specifically had done several engagements with the medical supply industry, construction, manufacturing, and plantation, to see what are the problems that these industries are facing, as then provide recommendations on how can we move forward with this thing. And at all those engagements, the good thing was we always included Kasuma in. So Ministry of Human Resources was always involved in there, and so they were also aware of what were the issues raised, and accordingly, what is the recommendation, what is it that can be, what can we move forward with, and they were able to also provide responses to the participants, which I thought was very good, and so that's one of the ways that SUHAKAM plays in getting different participants and different stakeholders together. Okay, next is again monitoring government compliance with its through our advice and recommendation, through parliamentary reporting. This is something that I think everyone here can be a lot more active, is how can you encourage your MPs to ask questions that you're asking SUHAKAM to give you answers for, but it's not within, SUHAKAM again has no compelling power, right? So how can we encourage, and a lot of the things is even the government agencies may want to proceed in that particular manner, but they need a more further encouragement. They may need a stronger, to see what's the interest or what's the response from the population itself. So, and again, the annual report is being tabled, and now hopefully more consistently. So, utilize and get your MPs to ask across whichever part of the fence the MPs are. Get them to be more, to ask questions so that we can get answers to these issues as well. Okay. And I think as Puan Altaf mentioned just now, we've got a new provision in the Act, Section 13(3), where when the Commission refers infringement to relevant authorities, they shall inform of the action taken. Of course, we wanted the language to be stronger, but it's better than nothing, right? So and we are seeing positive change even in that. There is responses from the government agencies. So yeah, that's one of the improvement that we've seen. Okay, then you've got investigation, as I've briefly mentioned as well. When we receive complaints, what we do. And again, you can look at section 14.1D, section 4.2B to D, section 12, section 14. Those will be your relevant provisions. The next one is whether individuals, government, public bodies are obliged to provide NHRIs with requested documentation when we request. The answer is yes. When SUHAKAM requests documents or information in the context of an inquiry, agencies, individuals are obliged to comply. These powers are set up in section 14 and 15, and non-compliance can be escalated to the court. Okay, however, there's always going to be exceptions, national security, cabinet papers, or again, ongoing court proceedings. Next thing is, how can NHRIs carry out this function? How do we carry out this function in practice? One example is public inquiry. We do investigations at individual levels, personal issues, individual complaints have been submitted, but we also, certain complaints require public inquiry. So it's something that's happened that requires a big, more prominent attention. So as you may know, currently SUHAKAM is doing a public inquiry on the typing prison situation, and we're at the tail end of that inquiry. You still have a few more days. If you're interested, you can always come to SUHAKAM and watch and be present there for the inquiry. Okay. Okay. The next one is on reporting. As we mentioned earlier, we go by way of annual report. Our annual reports, our other reports that annual report is tabled in Parliament, but a lot of our other reports are also put online. We proceed by way of media statements on certain issues. We also put out our positions based on those or our concerns. Okay. The next element would be on the promotional function, awareness and promotion. So it's all good and well when you have all these provisions in a treaty or in an act, in variety of acts. But if people don't really understand, the person on the ground, they don't understand what the impact of these provisions are, they're not going to be able to implement it or take advantage of those things, right? So that's part of what we try and do. Again, as I think it was mentioned earlier, we are very, very short of manpower, also due to our limited funding. But we try and do what we can. But I think in order to have more impact on promotion and awareness would be where we can do collaboration with different agencies, with different organizations to work together so that then the issues can be made more aware. And maybe if you're going to do programs on the ground in the different communities, you could invite SUHAKAM if we are available and able to maybe go and set up a booth there or do some kind of information sharing. And this could be with not only with the CSOs, but also with the government agencies. And we found that even when government agencies are doing different forums or different programs, SUHAKAM is also included and invited. So they also have that engagement to be able to move forward with. Okay. Next. Okay. Just to share that one of the items that we've been doing consistently is a program called Human Rights Program with the Youth. In 2016, SUHAKAM had introduced this program called Youth for Rights, or in Malay it's known as Belia Peduli Hak. The program is to educate young people on human rights and their role to promote and protect human rights. If you don't know you have the right, how are you going to promote it? How are you going to know that there's something to protect you, right? So we've done generally 2 types of activities, a 2-day camp for youths and a half-a-day thematic lecture organized for youths. And in 21 to 2025, SUHAKAM conducted 5 lecture sessions, 3 camps with the youth, and the programs were attended by students from local universities, colleges, as well as youths that were under surveillance by the National Anti-Drug Agency. So again, this was some of our initiatives. Next. We also have this module called ATAM, or Best Practices of Human Rights in Schools, or Amalan Terbaik Hak Asasi Manusia in the school, di sekolah. This program has been running the module itself has been used for more than 10 years, and now they're in the process of doing ATAM 2.0 to revise and improve on the input. In 2009, we only had 5 participating schools. However, by 2021, we've reached 469. You may say that it's still very much more is needed to be done. We agree, and we have been having a lot of engagements with the Ministry of Education, and we are seeing some positive feedback in them wanting to be able to take on this human rights element. How can we embed it into the schools? But also to see what other opportunities, or how can we change or improve the manner of communication. So not necessarily just in a book form, but make it in a more interactive method to be able to, so that more people will understand and be able to comprehend. Last year, Human Rights Day, 10th of December, we launched the TOT, the Teach the Trainers module, so that teachers were able to, we could now train and work with Institute Perguruan to train, so that they then can teach the students more, and that we can expand this element. The next one is Human Rights Workshop for Judiciary Enforcement Government Agencies. This is something that SUHAKAM has been consistently doing, and in 2022, before Mr. Gerald and Datuk Sri Hishamuddin finished their term at that time, SUHAKAM had launched a module with the Police Academy. And now the Police Academy, every cadet that goes into the Police Academy will have a module on human rights incorporated into their structure. Okay, next. We also do study visits are done to SUHAKAM. So in the last, we see universities, colleges, or even schools applying to come and visit SUHAKAM to understand what is it that SUHAKAM does, and to understand its infrastructure, and have more engagement so that they understand, and how then they can take these things on forward. Okay. We do human rights exhibition. From 21 to 25, SUHAKAM organized or participated in 98 exhibitions across Malaysia. Exhibitions, again, is a proven to be effective tool for SUHAKAM to raise awareness on human rights and mandate. In a way, I don't know what your response when you see 98 exhibits. You could say, it's only 98 in 5 years, what's the big deal? But you must also remember that our organization, the team itself, is about 5 to less than 10 people. And almost every other weekend they're out doing these things, right? So have a bit of compassion for us. This is what we've done, and we definitely want to try and do better. But again, how can we not just do physical exhibitions, but again now working with digital platforms and whatnot, how can we get these information out to the public more in a more concise and effective manner? Okay, next. Promotion, we've done promotional material. Again, you would have seen different thematic products. It's also on our website, research material, infographics. We've got a cartoon book on UNCAT. So, if you're ever interested, we had a compilation of different artists, and we created we have a hardcover coffee table book, but also we've done recently a pamphlet looking thing. But again, that's another fun way of, well, not to say fun, but another approach to be able to reach this information to the general public. Okay. Okay, we do teaching and research. Next. Quasi-jurisdictional functions. Not all NHRIs have this function, but in SUHAKAM, in a way, we have this thing. One example, as I mentioned just now, is the public inquiry that has been done. We've also in the past, SUHAKAM has completed public inquiries on the disappearance of Joshua Hilmi and Ruth Setipu in 20th January 2022. The inquiry commenced in February 2020, spanned over 23 months. A total of 22 hearings were conducted, 8 of which were held online. The public inquiry panel called 26 witnesses and presented 126 exhibits throughout the whole proceedings. The final decision of the public inquiry panel had then been published and is available to download on our website. Further, as I mentioned earlier, under the SUHAKAM Act, we are currently conducting, which we are at the tail end, of a public inquiry into the alleged human rights violation in connection with the incident of 17th January 2025 at Taiping Prison Perak, which led to the death of an inmate who was in custody. So this is in a snapshot, some of the things that we have done over 2021, 2025, and we hope to be doing a lot more. And I think just also as a call to the NGOs and agencies, embassies here, work with SUHAKAM so that we can reach out and have a more extensive impact with regard to human rights. Thank you. Any questions? Or you've asked all your questions? Okay. Baki? Joss? Okay.
Good afternoon again. My name is Vikar from Malaysian Anti-Corruption. I'd like to find out about this custodial debt in the detention center. It either is a lockup or it can be any detention center.
Any detention center.
Any detention center.
So we've, sorry, go on.
Currently, we have seen when there's a debt in the detention center or custodial debt, there should be an inquest by the coroner. But I have seen that the inquest of the debt or the finding does not reach the verdict and the family of the deceased. But this is triggering a very big question mark. Past many years back, there was a lot of custodial debt in police custody, and this was not been brought up and not been debated in the parliament. So one of the case that I have seen is a late Coogan case. He was brutally beaten up in the police custody. Then finally, the court have awarded the family with a certain damage, the lawsuit. But question is arising, what is the SUHAKAM's role in this custodial debt until to find that who is responsible for this custodial debt? Imagine someone who loved one who have died without getting a proper trial or fair. do you think SUHAKAM should have more power to investigate and find out what really happened? Thanks.
Thank you. If I understand correctly, you're talking about death in custody. It could be death in police lockup, right? So one of the things that we have, I won't be responding specifically to the Coogan's case, but just in general what we have done. So agreed, there's been death in custody, especially in police lockup, and SUHAKAM has raised that problem, that question many times. One of the initiatives that the Commission had embarked with, together with the police PDRM, is to set up a custodial health unit. Okay, and that's been going on for the last Mr. Gerald, about 5 years now. About 5, yep. So about 5 years plus, that's been already in process. We have it is the custodial health unit (CHU) is set up in 5 centralized lockups with about more than 100 people, right, in there? The centralized lockups. But 200, yeah. So you've got 3 I can't remember the locations, but you've got 3 in Peninsula, 1 in Sabah, 1 in Sarawak. Of course, there's a lot more that needs to be done, and it needs to be expanded into a lot more places. So number 1, to what I've been informed, the places where the custodial health units have been set up, the questionable death in custody has reduced a lot. And because now there will be a doctor. So what the custodial health unit basically means is having a doctor there in that unit. So if anything does happen, you can get immediate medical assistance. Number 2 is the police has also set up a committee on sudden death. I think that's what it's called, and where it's reported, and they've invited SUHAKAM to be part of that committee. So again, we are seeing incremental improvements in, and we've been able to also provide improvements into their SOP and so forth. Okay, that's with regard what we've actually been doing on custodial health unit element. Yeah. Your question as well is what can SUHAKAM do on the death that has happened? So as I mentioned earlier, the typing. The death in Taiping prison is a perfect example, because that was a death in custody, not in custody, but in prison itself, where a complaint had been submitted to SUHAKAM, and then we decided to do a public inquiry in that manner.
Just repeat your answer back. Is this a failure of the institution, especially the law enforcement, in terms of protecting the public? Because it's their duty to make sure the public are safe.
Sorry, Khan.
I'll comment back to your question. So it is showing the lack and also the failure of the institutional, especially the forces, especially either the police or any enforcement unit. This shows that when they are supposed to be protecting the public, but they have failed to protect. So this shows the lackness of their institution, especially the government institutional should more be precise, especially when it comes to protecting people, public interests.
Understand. Again, I guess SUHAKAM's initiatives have been, again, on awareness and how do you educate even the enforcement agencies and at all the different levels. So as we all, maybe the senior officers would know better. But the importance is also how can we institutionalize this information, these practices, best practices, even at the cadet level and so forth. So again, it's a slow process, but as I mentioned about the module that we started with the Police Academy, that's one of the initiatives. Also working with immigration and all the other enforcement agencies is something that we've been slowly trying to educate and bring awareness from this aspect, and how to improve SOPs that they have currently. Ken? Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Yeah.
There's one from there.
My name.
Yes,
Right.
yes,
Yeah.
one.
My name is Padmawati Krishnan. I'm from the Association of Women with Disabilities, Malaysia, and also a former senator. I would like to just highlight among the issues that you brought up about visits to detention centers that SUHAKAM does to institutions and other places. And you've mentioned Henry Gurney School in children's homes, etc. But I think it should also be extended to homes where there are children with, not only children, adults as well as elderly with disabilities. And it also should cover elderly homes and nursing homes where we all know from the social media that a lot of violation of human rights is happening, abuse, torture is happening also. And shall I take just one step up?
Okay, go on.
Recently, just about a day ago, we are very happy to note that SUHAKAM has been urging the government to ratify the UN Convention Against Torture. Now, here, no individual is subject to abuse. And usually people think of abuse during war times, during detention, and where people are in remand and all that. But you have to also understand that in centers where there are persons with disabilities, children with disabilities, and also the elderly, this abuse happens. We have to acknowledge it and take action. And you have to go with unscheduled visits, yeah? And now the amendment that has been made to the SUHAKAM Act allows you to go without any permission from the authorities, isn't it?
No, it is, okay, go on.
Sorry, so, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong.
I'll do this after.
Right, okay. So, I think it should cover all. We have to also look at people who are stateless as well. Yeah? And so, here, once we ratify the UNCTAD, UNCAT Convention, it will also help in removing the reservation under the CRPD. We've got 2 reservations still left. One is 15, freedom from torture or cruel, inhuman, degrading treatment and punishment, which has happened. And we all know, we have heard of that case of Bella, not the side-sided Bella, but the Bella with the Down syndrome.
Understand.
Yes, and the perpetrator was, charged, and I think she's serving sentence, yeah? So, these are only one in so many cases are brought up to the court,
Yeah.
So I hope SUHAKAM can pay more attention to this, torture and abuse that's happening among us.
Can I reply now? Okay. So just to correct, just because we don't specifically state in the Act PWD homes and OKU homes, PWD homes, older persons home, doesn't stop us from going and doing the visits. So, and that's why certain words are used, are drafted in a more generic manner. So it allows us to go through. So sometimes when we do get complaints, if we do get complaints, then we can again consider the issue, and then we do go down. So it's not that we've not gone down, right? So just to correct that impression. And even in when we've been engaging with the UN on the UN CAT, right? We've not, yes, even in order to have this yesterday's event, we brought together government agencies, NGOs, to be able to get all these different stakeholders in the room so that you could, to have a better understanding of what are the issues and what is it that different agencies feel their concerns are and how to properly understand and respond to them, right? So, again, just to say that we have been, we've been proactive. When we do receive complaints, we do go down. But again, I have to put this proviso, this caveat that, again, we are very short-handed. So we, as much as we want to go down to the ground and visit every complaint that we've received, we are not able to do so as well. But we try our best to be able to deal with these issues. Ken?
I think the short-handedness, you can always engage the NGOs. You can engage volunteers to help you out.
No.
No?
No. We cannot, that's our authority. We cannot delegate the authority. right?
Understood.
Yeah. Yes.
Hi, Dato, and
Hi.
good evening. I'm Alpha from the National Council for the Blind Malaysia.
Okay.
Just now I heard about the monitoring and reporting, right? So we do hope that since the government is submitting the CRPD report to the CRPD committee, so we do hope that SUHAKAM also could lead and initiate CSOs to help us in submitting alternative report based on Article 33(2) and Article 33(3) CRPD.
So if I understand correctly, you want SUHAKAM to
Initiate the CSO, the OPDs to submit the maybe shadow report.
so meaning we get your input and then
Yeah.
we. So just to explain a bit, even for the CRPD, CRC, CDAW, which were the three conventions that we are a party to, we had, even in the past, we normally will do engagements with different stakeholders to be able to get the input so that we can then draft our shadow report. Right, and that's something that we've consistently been doing. We had done that for the CDAW as well as for CRC, and we will do that same thing with CRPD as well. Just to clarify, a couple of so a couple of 2-3 years ago, we did do an educational. We had done a workshop for CSOs so that they would know how to do the third-party submission. Because the third-party submission, SUHAKAM will do our shadow report, right? Which could be our own positions as well as listening to the different feedback that's been given by NGOs. However, it doesn't stop you, just like today, to be able to give your own individual third-party submission. But one thing you got to remember is for the third-party submission, it's always limited to wording, the number of word count. And if you can get different NGOs like-minded on certain specific areas, then your word count goes up. So SUHAKAM had already done that 2-3 years ago to help NGOs to be able to understand better on how to do that. But we take note of this, even for future. For CRPD, we will see how the team can also do consultation sessions with the NGOs. Yeah. Before that one, is there anyone else from this side? Yes. Sorry, Andrew. Puan Batma, can you wait for? Yes, Andrew. Tasnim. Online. Yeah.
Thank you. So, Andrew Koo from the Malaysian Bar. This is a question about the change in the law as it relates to visiting places in detention. In the previous act, you had to give advance notice. In the new act, it's in accordance with the guidelines or rules of the place to be visited. How much of a real change is that? Because it still doesn't allow you, and I'm open to be corrected, it still doesn't allow you to conduct unannounced visits. And so it just gives places of detention an opportunity to tidy things up before you guys get to come in. Is there any intention going forward to, again, I mean, in the future set of proposed amendments that we will go through from time to time, is there any intention, desire to push that some more and to actually get the right to have unannounced visits?
Sure. Thank you, Andrew, for that. Andrew was part of the consultation sessions when we did the amendment to the previously in 2022 onwards. Yes, so one of the recommendations that we receive is also to do, when we do visits, is to do unannounced visits, right? However, that's not always that's not as simple as we requested that many times, but it was, what can I say? It was sorry? Yes, it was rejected. But as the middle way forward was them to say, as per SOP, as what you mentioned. But again, that does not, it again depends on each agency. Some agencies may be a bit more open and give us, well, faster responses, but sometimes some may not as much. So again, that is something that we're going to try again to see how to work to improve that provision of the unannounced visit. Okay.
Okay, Dato', we
Online.
take one from the online.
Yep.
Okay, we open the floor to online for Ms. Aisha.
Aisha.
Aisha, you need to unmute. Okay.
Good afternoon again. Sorry, Doctor. Anyway, a suggestion perhaps. Would it be helpful?
Sorry, Puan Aisha, can you speak to the mic? It's very muffled.
Can you hear me now?
A bit clearer.
All right. Try and speak slower too.
Okay.
Good afternoon again. Perhaps a suggestion. Would it be helpful, do you think, for SUHAKAM to have or to set up a tracking tool similar to that of the government when it came to the UPR recommendations to help monitor and track adoption, implementation of SUHAKAM's reports, especially in the bigger reports?
Thank you for that Thank you for that suggestion. That's something that, again, I think as Puan Altaf mentioned earlier, even to track the recommendations that we provide, responses, and also what kind of level of responses do we get, is something that we will take into account moving forward. Can't promise that we can incorporate it, but we will take into account.
Of course.
Yeah.
It might also be helpful in terms of perhaps assessing your programmatic needs in future, and maybe it's useful in terms of making your case or stronger case for funding and so forth with the government.
Sure.
A
So
suggestion.
again, that's something that we have been working on and trying to see how to improve the situation.
Thank you.
Puan, before you, no, hold on. We need to hear Puan. Done? Okay, thank you. With already 5:10 at the moment, can I get one last question? Okay.
Thank you. Okay, so I'm making reference to your presentation, right? In one of the slides on the issue of investigations, you state here that in terms of being able to access documents, limits apply regarding national security, cabinet papers. To me, these are like dokumenta peringkat di bawah OSA, right? So my question, because there seems to be a disconnect, under the SUHAKAM Act, the section states that inquiries should be able to access any written document that is deemed fit. But in your experience, are SUHAKAM inquiries sort of inhibited by OSA documents? And with regards to the new Data Sharing Act, has that potentially improved your processes?
You want to say anything, Dato' Sri? No. I think this is still. I think the short answer would be it is not definitely to the level that we want it to be, right? However, part of the way forward is sometimes it's not only just amending the law, right? As we've seen in many acts, you've ratified and or ceded to a multiple number of treaties, but it's not always implemented. So, which means it's really important that the people whether it's the government agency officers or even the people on the ground, at every level, that they understand the provisions and the intention of the provisions, right? So again, talking about importance of, not to downplay the importance of awareness and implementation. So it's a work in progress, and yeah. Done? Okay. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you, Yang Berbahagia Dato' and Jennifer, and distinguished participants for this fruitful discussion. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, as we approach to the conclusion of today's consultation, it is my honor to once again invite Yang Berbahagia Dato' Sri Muhammad Ishamuddin Yunus, Chairman of SUHAKAM, to deliver his closing remarks.
Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon and salam hak asasi manusia semua. As we come to the close of today's consultation, in conjunction with the 2025 SUHAKAM Day celebration, I would like to extend my heartfelt gratitude to each one of you for your time and invaluable contributions. Apart from commemorating the 26 years of the establishment of SUHAKAM, I believe that today's consultation has successfully met its key objectives, which include, among others, discussing and identifying steps forward in support of strengthening SUHAKAM's effectiveness, credibility, and independence in line with the requirements of the Paris Principles and in preparation for our upcoming 2026 Re-Accreditation process. The last few hours have been truly enriching exchange of ideas, and your positive criticisms, constructive feedbacks, and diverse perspectives have been incredibly insightful. This session has reinforced our belief that an inclusive and collaborative approach is the only way to genuinely strengthen a national human rights institution. The insights you have shared today are not just heard. They will be actively considered and integrated into our operations and our strategic planning moving forward. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, as we conclude this discussion, I want to draw your attention to the next critical step, which is the opportunity for third-party submissions to the Gunnery Subcommittee on Accreditation, SCA. As highlighted during the earlier presentation, these submissions are a formal and crucial avenue for stakeholders like you to provide direct feedback to the SCA. According to the guidelines for third-party submissions, third parties include, among others, special procedures for international and regional human rights mechanism, human rights defenders, non-governmental organizations, civil society, victims of human rights violations, and whistleblowers. These submissions by third parties are essential as they provide a factual, detailed, and consistent perspective on SUHAKAM's adherence to the Paris Principles. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, therefore, in this regard, and in the spirit of openness and transparency, we sincerely invite you to utilize this platform to share your feedback, providing concrete examples of how SUHAKAM has or has not discharged its mandate, and provide necessary recommendations to strengthen SUHAKAM's mandates and functions to promote and protect human rights in Malaysia. For your submission to be formally received and considered by the SCA, it is essential that you adhere to the guidelines for third-party submissions available on the Gandri website. These guidelines ensure the SCA receives factual, detailed, and consistent information that is essential for a thorough and objective review of SUHAKAM's performance. The deadline for the third-party submissions for the upcoming 47th SCA session is 19 March 2026. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, in our efforts to achieve the Sustainable Development Goals, SDGs, in 2030, I would like to take this opportunity to highlight SDG 16. Promote peaceful and inclusive societies for sustainable development, provide access to justice for all, and build effective, accountable and inclusive institutions at all levels. Target 16A of SDG 16 specifically mentions strengthening relevant national institutions, including through international cooperation for building capacity at all levels to prevent violence and combat terrorism and crime. And the indicator to realize the set goal according to the SDGs is the existence of independent national human rights institutions in compliance with the Paris Principles. Therefore, your engagement, whether through today's session or a formal submission, is part of the process and is a powerful tool for accountability and a direct way for you to help shape a more effective and credible human rights body for all in Malaysia. Thank you again for your unwavering commitment to human rights. We look forward to your continued partnership in this critical journey. Thank you.
Thank you, Yang Berbahagia Datuk Seri, for the meaningful remarks. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, with that, we have officially concluded today's consultation in conjunction with the 2025 SUHAKAM Day celebration, strengthening of SUHAKAM through the 2026 Re-Accreditation process. As of today, we had more than 100 participants joining online and around 70 in person. On behalf of SUHAKAM, I would wish to extend our heartfelt appreciation to all our distinguished participants for your presence and contributions, which we will take into serious consideration for our upcoming re-accreditation. Additionally, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of SUHAKAM and everyone in the room, we all would like to wish a happy birthday to Yang Berbahagia Datuk Seri for your birthday today, which falls under the same day as the SUHAKAM's anniversary day. Give him a round of applause. We wish everyone a safe journey home. There is still food outside, and please enjoy. We wish everyone a safe journey home. There is still food outside, and please enjoy the refreshments at the foyer before you leave until 6 p.m. Terima kasih, thank you, and we look forward to our continued collaboration and partnership.